Morning guys, Scott from SE Landscaping on finally a sunny day. No snow, no wind, no rain, and got a couple of little jobs on today. Been reducing the lads have been reducing the hedge for the last couple of days, so I'm just going to go around, follow around today on a few jobs and bang the stuff through the chipper. So I'll bring you a bit of footage in a bit, but the videos that I'm producing at the moment, I'm actually getting requests for certain things now from people. So I'm going to start, if people do ask and I do feel I can help with that, then I will do videos on that. If I can just start with a couple of shout outs, a couple of people who've helped me channel grow, who've got bigger numbers than me, and people have, once they've mentioned on their channel, they've popped over to mine, are Chris, Country Cottage Gardener, Robbie over at Premier Lawns, Jason Gardner, and Reese, the Kilted Gardener. 3 or 4 people there who, like I say, they've given me a mention, and I've noticed after the mention that my numbers have increased sort of by a decent amount. So thanks guys, I'm pleased that obviously we helping each other as channels to grow as well. So anybody who's not already heard of any of these guys, they're all well worth a watch. I think they're all well established channels, so you're probably already subscribing, but if not, get over to their channels. So coming back, I had a request a couple of days ago about how I deal with staff and how I employ staff and things, and to be honest, I think every person in the country who employs staff will tell you the same answer, that there's no proven formula. Basically, it is a minefield. You get lucky sometimes, and you can get unlucky, and that unlucky streak can be like you're in a poker hall, losing all your money, because that can go on for months till you get the right person. I've been lucky sometimes, but I've also been really unlucky. Starting off with staff, I mean, you've got to realise that once you start employing somebody, if it's a subcontractor, then yes, they're giving you an invoice and you're just paying them, and usually they come with their insurance and everything like that, so that's okay. If you get them on the PAYE route, where you're paying their tax and everything, you've got to remember that you've got to cover their tax, you've got to cover their statutory sick pay unless you pay them full pay, you've got to pay the holiday pay, you've got to pay their pension unless they opt out of it. If the wife has a child, you've got to pay paternity, you've got to kit them out in PPE. The list is absolutely endless. So if you're employing a basic person on £8 whatever an hour, which is minimum wage, which is say £18,000 a year, it's not 18,000, because you've got to cover the holidays, you've got to cover the sickness, you've got to cover everything else, and like I say, the paternity and things like that. So if you're going to have to get someone in to cover their time off and things like that, it shoots that money up. So a minimum person could cost you £23,000 a year. I mean, like I say, PPE, if he goes through a couple of pairs of boots a year, it's £100. If he goes through 3 or 4 pairs of trousers a year, £80. T-shirts, high vis, hard hats. Oh, I've lost my gloves, I've left them on site or something like that. You've got an obligation. Yes, they've got a duty of care to look after your PPE, but you've got an obligation to actually, what's the word I'm looking for, to actually supply them with the kit. So that's sort of some of the downsides. A few years ago, I got up to the maximum number of employees I've had, which was 6, meaning there was 7 in our team. That's sort of the largest the company has grown to, and basically what I found is we're a smaller team now. That's actually worked better, because we're doing the same amount of work, which sounds crazy. We're doing the same amount of work, but I've bought a lot better equipment and a lot bigger equipment, which means we can do a lot more work quicker. So for instance, we used to cut a lot of areas with a 0 turn. now we have bigger ride-ons, tractors, etc. So that's one benefit. But what I was finding with employees is when you go to price a job, I'll look at an area and I'll know in my head that it'll take me an hour to cut that area, or it'll take me an hour to cut that hedge. Whatever you do, if you're employing people, and some of you guys might come back and say I've got great employees who can work as good as me, I don't believe that. I think every employer will never have an employee who'll work as hard as him. So what I'm saying is, whenever you go to price a job, if that job's going to take you an hour yourself, if you've got it in your mind, which we're pretty good as workers, we're pretty good once we've been doing this trade a lot of years of knowing how long something takes, I would double it. So if that's a front garden or a back garden that takes 20 minutes, I would say 40 minutes, because by the time they've faffed about, they've sat in the van for 5 minutes, they've checked the social media and everything else, had a cup of tea, chat to another guy if you send out 2 in a gang. Basically what I've found is working out, because what I do is when I send guys out, I send them out with a list of jobs for the day or a schedule, and they come back on a night and say this is what we've done. And when you do work out, you pretty much get the times, or you track the vehicles and you still get the times of how long they're on site. And that's basically how you come up with how long something takes. And even the smallest job, like I say, just double it, otherwise you'd be losing money. So anyway, I had some employees a couple of years ago, and one of them, I mean, I'm not going to obviously name employees just in case any previous employees decide to watch this, but one of them, he'd done the trade for a number of years, and he'd done the trade as in, when he came to me, he'd had his own business and he'd done garden maintenance. So I thought, yeah, so he'd done private garden maintenance, which in the back of your mind straight away you think this guy will have an eye for turning out good work, and everything will be, all the sort of small bits will be smart and it will all look good. But unfortunately that wasn't the case. The work that he was turning out was substandard, and as well as that, on commercial work, you tend to try and turn work out quicker. So if you're strimming larger areas, you want them turning out a bit quicker. But that wasn't the case, unfortunately. The work was coming back really slow. So, like I say, other things of note is travelling to site. Even, I know it sounds daft, but even a job 20 minutes away, where you put in your sat nav, it'll take 20 minutes. Something always comes up and it takes half an hour, and that, what usually comes up is, we'll stop at the shop, we'll go and get our lunch, which we should have got. We should have either brought packed lunch, or we should have brought before the dinner. We should have brought our own packed lunch, or we should have gone to the shop on the way to work. And then comes lunchtime, and again they go to the shop, but they don't go in the lunch half hour. No, they go 10 minutes before, and then you still expect to have half an hour. And then it might be 2 o'clock and they want a drink, so hey presto, we'll go to the shop. So with them breaks here and there, you've lost another half hour. And all these things, and employees, unless they've had their own business, they can't actually understand where you're coming from. But basically a lot of these guys are just out for an easy ride. If you're someone who's got a good bunch of employees, because they're not all bad, to be honest, I've got some really good ones. If you've got some good employees, then you're really, really, really lucky. But you'll understand what I'm saying if you have a bad one, or you've had bad ones, because these guys can really, really cause you lots of trouble, and they can cause you lots of well, cash flow problems as well, because it's alright them taking the extra 20 minutes here and there, but you're trying to apologies for that, you're trying to build a business, and you're trying to build a business paying someone 8 or 9 hours a day, and you're only getting 5 or 6 hours a day. So that's something just to think about. It's time management. And I mean, I can think back to a number of sites, and in the early days what I tend to do with an employee is I'll go out, I won't send anybody out on a job that every job I wouldn't give to anybody I haven't done myself. So whatever that job is, I've done myself. But what tends to happen is when I give someone some sites, I will go out on those sites and we will do the job together, and then the second visit I'll go out as like a labourer to the employee, because he's going to look after these sites, and the times are there then. But then the first time the employee goes afterwards, the third visit, when he's on his own, it's amazing that he loses time, or something goes wrong, or this happens or that happens, and that goes from a job that you've done up with someone else for say 2 hours for months, years, and you've done it twice with him for 2 hours, he comes back as 3 hours or 3 hours 10 minutes. And it's like I say, that employees, a lot of employees, they just basically just out for themselves, and they won't help you in any way. So, and another thing, it's a timekeeping on a morning. They'll go from, so my guys start at 7:30 on a morning. So basically, what 7:30 on a morning means is them coming to you and being in that van ready to go at 7:30 on a morning. Not driving to the unit at 7:30 on a morning. It means that they kit it up, whatever they have to do, because that's the other thing, they'll spend 10 minutes on a morning once they do come in at 7:30. Oh, I'll just put my boots on in the car park and things. No, 7:30 is you're ready to go to work. If you start working in a factory, you expect to clock in and be on that machine and to go. And all these little things add up. But do you want to know the funny thing? On a night at 4:30, it doesn't take them 10 minutes to get in the car, take the work boots off and go. It takes them 30 seconds. So it's just a few things I have noticed, and like I say, it will cost you a lot of money. So all I'm saying with employees is, from my experience, and like I say, some people might come back and have different information, but from my experience, when you're pricing jobs, just make sure that whatever you're pricing it on based on yourself, you double it, and that is one way that you won't end up coming unstuck. And then it's getting the right people. I mean, there's a well-known large company near me, and I don't know what they do, but basically they employ people through the summer, and they'll advertise early March, and what will happen is, come the end of the year, they'll keep on the basic staff, and they'll get shot of everybody as seasonal workers. And them seasonal workers, and as well as that, they only pay minimum wage or slightly above. And then what happens is, every year they come back, and it's like, are you really happy to sit on your ass for 4 months a year and do nothing and then come back? How I work it, I employ my staff all year round, and by doing that, obviously it's an incentive for them to work hard, to know they're going to be employed over the winter. But there's firms out there like the one I've mentioned, I don't know how they do it. The same staff come back, so they're getting paid crap money, they only working so many months of the year, and then this guy's shitting on them, for a better word, pardon the language, but that's how it is, and then they come back every year. So I'm just at a bit of a loss why someone could think that it's good to sit at home for 4 months a year, but then the guy's got the loyalty, so I'm at a bit of a loss with that. It doesn't really make sense to me. So like I say, I've tried everything. I do pay good wages. I pay higher than most of the landscape companies in my area, so I know where I'm at with the money. I'm paying good money. It doesn't always work. You get guys who say they've done everything and you get them in, and then you find them sat in the van for 2 hours and you give them really easy targets, because like I've said on previous videos, if something takes me an hour, when I'm pricing work for my employees to do, I always allow 50% extra, because nobody will work as hard as you. But that's still not the case. People still come back and say I haven't done this or haven't done that. Like I say, I've been lucky. I've had some good guys who'll go out the way for you, and I've got a couple of good lads who, like I could ring them up on a Saturday morning and say, can you come in on a Saturday morning, and they'd come in. So that's a good one. And then sort of excuses. I mean, some of the things I've had over the years, my hamster's died, really, and you want me to do what? Or the good old, my bus never turned up or my car won't start. But do your legs work? Yeah. So are you on your way? Are you walking to work at the moment, or have you got your bike? Oh no, I'm just sat in the house. Wait, if that had happened to me, I'd be on my way now. I'd be walking. But no. So you know that straight away that bus has been late or that car won't start is basically they don't want to come to work. So why not just be honest and say, I don't fancy it today, because I'd rather someone be honest than just tell blatant lies. So you call people out, and like you say, it's very easy to find people who have been telling you lies. I mean, I employed a guy last year, 3 months I think he lasted, and he was out the door, and basically he lived not far from me, and if you live near your boss, then you've got to be really careful. And this guy was off sick. He'd only been with me 3 weeks. So I'm travelling home one night from work, and what do I discover? I discover a man pruning a hedge with a little car and trailer. Same man who's off on the sick. And that's some of the things. He probably thinks, yes, he's paying me £80 a day, I can make 100 here. Well, yeah, you're not making 100 every day, otherwise you'd be doing it yourself, and you'd be in business. The reason you work for me is because previously he tried self-employment and he didn't make any money. So yeah, you can get the odd day, but do them on a Saturday morning, not phone in sick when someone's relying on you. Because the other problem is, that guy phones in sick and he's the driver, and a lot of the time I've got a couple of young lads and they don't drive. So what happens is, a lot of the time I'll leave the unit on a morning at 5 o'clock. I put in long days through the summer, as you guys know. So if I go out at 5 o'clock on a morning and I get a call at 7:30 to say someone's phoning in sick, that doesn't just pose a problem for the man who's phoned in sick. That poses the problem for the guy who's sat waiting for him. So if I'm sending out a gang of 2, one with a mower and one with a strimmer, he's got to pick him up. So that means that guy, because all my other staff have gone to work, that guy's got nowhere to go. So you can't say to him, look, you need to take a holiday, because he doesn't want to. So you've either got to upset your day and you've got to go and reroute your day to pick him up, or send someone else to pick him up, which costs you money, or you've got to say to him, oh, you'll have the day off and get paid for it. So that's something that you've got to bear in mind. Another one, I had a lad who, when he started, he had a family, and he said, I don't want to work any overtime. And no problem with that, you've told me from the start, so fair enough. So he was working 7:30 till 4 o'clock. So some days it would get to sort of 2:45 and he would phone me up and he would say, I'm all done. So I get my book out, I see what we've got on for the week, and I'll say, right, we've got a job on the way back, it's going to take you about half an hour, it'll just fill your day in. So this went on for a few weeks, and then he came to me and put his notice in, and I said, what's the issue? He said, well, at my previous employer, he said if we got done early, we got to go home. I said, right. I said, so did he used to pay you till? Oh yes, he used to pay you. I said, you can go home early with me. I said, but I'm not paying you. Why should I pay you to go home when I'm out working? So they didn't want to do extra work. Obviously I keep track of people, so I know if they sat about and stuff. because a lot of my sites you sign in and sign out, so I pretty much know when they sign in and signing out and things. So they can't sit about a huge amount of time unless it's sites that's out the way. But this guy didn't want to do a day's work, which that's my thing. You help the other team out. If we can get ahead that week, we might be behind the next. We might have to help him out if he has a bad day. But no, he didn't want to work overtime, and since then he's now working for a local council. That's so that gives you an idea. He's probably working 3 or 4 hours a day. So that's another thing with it, that, like I say, the people take a lend on you, and they think that the more you're nice to employees, the more they take a lend on you. So for instance, I've had guys who said, oh, can I finish early, I've got an appointment or something. Yeah, but then they have 3 appointments a week all of a sudden. They've got the dentist on a Monday, they've got the doctors on a Wednesday, and they've got to go and service the car. No, you've got to have a bit of leeway. Instead, put all them into one day and take a holiday, because you can understand one here and there, or the odd lateness on a morning, but when it's getting to 3 or 4 times in a month, then it's a bit of a joke. So that's a few of the pitfalls of employing people. It's not an easy route. You will get, from time to time, as I said earlier, you will get some really good employees who'll go out the way for you. They'll be there on a morning early. They'll do what they'll finish, and they'll say, oh, I'm not doing anything tonight, do you want me to put a couple hours in, do you want me to go to this site to get ahead tomorrow, and stuff like that. That's the employees you want, but they're few and far between. That is the problem with people like that. If you find a couple of good ones, hang on to them. But then the other thing is, I had a good lad about 2 years ago, and I gave him regular pay rises and stuff like that, but unfortunately it still doesn't always keep them there. He at the time had another trade that he'd been in previous, and he wanted to go back into that, which was joinery. So unfortunately, joiners obviously get a lot more money, and he decided that he would leave. So you can, like I say, you can use subcontractors, which is a lot easier, because at the end of the day, if that subcontractor doesn't turn in, if you've got lots of work for subcontractors, that is, if he doesn't turn in, you don't pay him, basically. If he comes in, you go and check his work afterwards, and you don't pay him till you're happy with the work. So for guys starting out in business, subcontractors are probably the better route. You've just got to be very careful with subcontractors that they don't steal your work. If you're sending them into, especially in the private sector, if you're sending them into a job and they're doing a job for Mrs. Jones, they can very easily cut you out. It's a bit difficult on the commercial, because if you've got long-term contracts, they can't go in and do that and take the contracts off you. So you've got to be really careful with that from subcontractors, because they will take work off you at the end of the day. They're in the trade as well as you are, so it's dog eat dog at times. So that's something to take into account of with subcontractors. But employment wise, if what I know now off my sort of over 20 years in this trade, if I was an accountant, you can work on your own. You sat at a desk, and apart from some really bad ill health, you can plod on your own and just sit at that desk. As a landscape gardener, we've got age that's against us. You can very easily put your back out and things like that, and it's a tough trade, and a lot of the things we do aren't one-man jobs. If I could do this trade on my own, I would quite happily do it on my own, because midsummer it gets quite stressful, and the main cause of stress, I can go out and I can buy any amount of equipment I want, and as you guys know, I always buy new, which means that 95% of the time my vans, my equipment, my plant, anything is going to run sweet, and there's going to be no issues. The only issues you have is with staff. So interesting to see, hear your thoughts, and to hear other people's good and bad experiences with members of staff. But I mean, I have a lot of business friends, and the main cause of stress amongst them is staff. I have a lady who owns a factory, and she has 200 staff, and she said it's an absolute nightmare. They employ people full time to deal with staff and staff issues, obviously HR and stuff, that business might spend, I don't know, £50,000 a year just to sort stuff out. So it comes at a huge cost, but it is the one most stressful thing. Like I say, from a business point of view, I can go out and do a job, and I can knock as much work and get as much work as I want, to be honest, at the moment, and that can keep coming. But finding the people to do it is the reason that probably I haven't grown any more and any quicker, because, like I said previously, you grow steadily, and you grow steadily and try and bring in young lads who you can tailor and give them good ways of working, and encourage them to work decent and to your standards, and to get to work how you expect them to. But that's not always the case. So I hope the video has been helpful. Like I say, drop a few comments and see what your experiences has been with the issues I've mentioned, and we will see you on the next one, guys. Thanks for watching.